pink ribbons, walks, mammograms, self-breast exams, even the entire month of October dedicated to breast cancer awareness. Yet African American women are still more likely to die from breast cancer than any other ethnic group. According to the Virginia Department of Health, Portsmouth, Norfolk, and Western Tidewater have the highest mortality rates of breast cancer in the state. Up next on Another View, a frank discussion about the issues that keep African American women away from early detection and proper treatment of this curable disease. Stay tuned. This is a conversation that could literally save your life. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee, and Another View is next, right after the news from NPR.
Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
I just have to laugh every time I hear that applause. It just really tickles me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee, and welcome to Another View. Before we get into our discussion today on a very serious topic of breast cancer, I want to extend a sincere thank you to the Urban League of Hampton Roads. They awarded me last night with the Volunteer of the Year Award for some work that I've done with the group, and I was in the company of Lalise Curtis, who's with the U.S. Training Center, Sarita Spriggs, who's a teacher for Norfolk Public Schools, and Charlene Reynolds, who's president of Creative Insurance Concepts. And the four of us each received a Volunteer of the Year award. It's a beautiful award, and I really am very, very grateful. I was not able to be there last night because I teach at Old Dominion University on Thursday nights, so my husband, Maxie, decided to go and accept the award for me, and I really appreciate that, honey. Thanks for being my rock. So today, we're talking about breast cancer, and men, do not touch the dial. This is a disease that could affect your loved one or you because men are not immune. Now listen to this. According to the American Cancer Society, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer during her lifetime. There are all kinds of educational and awareness efforts surrounding breast cancer, yet the disparity in death rates between African American and white women is pretty alarming. In Virginia, while white and black women are diagnosed with the disease at similar rates, African American women are 47% more likely to die than their white counterparts. Portsmouth and Norfolk have the highest mortality numbers in Hampton Roads, and the city of Portsmouth has decided to do something about it. During this hour, we'll talk about the Portsmouth Partnership to Beat Breast Cancer, and we'll share critical information to help you take charge of your health. Please welcome Fredda Bryan. She is the Community Health Advisor and Associate Director for the American Cancer Society and also a breast cancer survivor. Fredda, welcome to the show.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you for having me, and thank you so much for wanting to share this information because it's so vital to saving lives. And congratulations on your award last night.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Also with us is Elaine Gishard. She is also a breast cancer survivor. Elaine, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. And Carol VanCamp, who is the Community Health Advisor Manager, also with the American Cancer Society. Carol, welcome.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I appreciate it. And I was there last night when you received the award. It was awesome.
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry I had to miss it. And finally, Leon Thomas joins us, and his wife is in the process of dealing with breast cancer right now. And we really appreciate you being here to share your perspective.
Well, thank you, Barbara, for allowing me to have this opportunity to share with Tidewater the male perspective.
Absolutely. So I want to say, and Fredda, I have to say, first of all, you're a survivor. And today is your birthday.
Yes,
so that's got to be even more special, isn't it?
It is. I'm 46 today, and to be able to spend my time talking about what has become such a passion for me, that I'm a thriver. And you've been so supportive in having us come on the show in the past and talking about this. So I'm just happy to be here to continue to talk about the importance of early detection. There's millions of women living with cancer, and that's the difference that we live. We live with cancer.
Absolutely. Now, Elaine, I mean, there's so much information out there. There's all kinds of walks and opportunities to get mammograms. There's so much stuff going on. Are you surprised that particularly African American women are still having trouble taking that step and getting that test?
I'm very surprised because a lot of women, they I think for insurance reasons and other reasons that they just think they're not acceptable, to getting breast cancer. And they don't know how important it is to have your mammograms done every year. That's a very important thing, to, even if you don't think that you can get cancer, it's there. It's there. It always hides in the body somewhere. So I advise every woman, if you can, there's free clinics. There's all kinds of programs that offer free mammograms. And I think every woman and men should get checked for cancer.
Now, the Portsmouth Partnership to Beat Breast Cancer, it's a grassroots effort that is going to be starting with a big kickoff on this coming Monday, as a matter of fact, at Roger Brown's restaurant. And we have the mayor of Portsmouth, Mayor Kenny Wright, on the phone. Mayor Wright, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I get excited every time I talk to you. It's always something positive in our community. So how are you doing?
You are sweet. I'm doing great. Why is the city getting involved in this? Why are you helping to help women in particular, but anyone help to fight breast cancer?
Well, anything or any initiative like this is going into a community like Portsmouth or throughout the country. It's extremely important that we all get involved and try as much as we can. Like one of the earlier folks just mentioned, different things trigger different people to get involved and take that next step and getting checked out. And whatever that is, whether it's getting our civic leagues involved, our Greek letter organizations involved, whatever we need to do, the mayor involved, I want to do it because this is extremely important, especially to cities like Portsmouth.
Now, there was a survey done recently, Mayor Wright, where 300 African-American women aged 40 or older who live in Portsmouth were surveyed. And one of the things that they said about this new partnership, this Portsmouth Partnership to Beat Breast Cancer, is that the fact that Portsmouth is one of the co-sponsors of the campaign is a great source of pride for these women. They said, quote, Portsmouth is usually not in the forefront. We usually follow Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and other cities. It is very unique to target women in Portsmouth and put Portsmouth in a positive light for a change. What do you think about that?
Well, excellent. I'm thriving to make Portsmouth number one in a lot of things, but this one is not it. Yes. So we definitely have to reverse course on this.
Absolutely. So we will see you on Monday at the big kickoff. And
absolutely. I'm ready.
Okay. And we thank you so much for joining us here on Another View today.
Thank you. And
take
have
care.
a great day, and happy birthday, Fredda.
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you on Monday.
Okay.
Have a blessed weekend.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Let's talk about, Elaine, your story. When did you find out that you had breast cancer? Did you go get a mammogram? What happened?
It was 2006. I went to have a routine mammogram. I guess about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call and said that I needed to come back in to have another mammogram done. And then I got a letter in the mail, and I'm like, okay, this got to be serious if I got a phone call and a letter in the mail. And so I went in to have another mammogram done, but they actually did a biopsy. And they found just a small little dot, like a peanut size tumor. And I didn't know that once they found that little thing, that it was going to end up being something blown, to more than what it was. But that's how I went into.
Do you remember your emotions when you got that letter, when you got that phone call? Do you remember your thoughts?
Well, at the time when I got the phone call and then I got the letter, and my husband at that time, he was in Afghanistan. And so I was home with my kids. My mom lives here. And I said, oh, God, they said, bring someone with you. And I said, oh, God, I got to call my mother. And I called my mom. And at the time when she went with me,
keep talking, that's okay.
At the time when I was told that I had cancer, I just didn't think about, death or anything like that. I just talked to God and said, okay, how are we going to get through this? Mm-hmm. And once I went in and I talked to the doctor, at first it was like when he talked, I couldn't hear anything. And I guess that's why they tell you to bring someone with you when you need to talk. And I couldn't hear anything. And afterwards, then it came to me. I'm like, oh my God, I got cancer. You know, I'm one of the ones that used to sit on the bed and watch the walk and watch people and, you know, give money. And I said, oh my God, now I'm one of those people, you know. And so I didn't think of death because cancer isn't death. There's always life after cancer. But that's the first thing that come to people's mind when they hear the word cancer. Oh my God, I'm going to die. No, you're not going to die. You know,
that noise that you heard in the background was your cell phone, right? Okay, so we're going to turn that off. But Carol, I want to ask you, do you think that part of the reason that women are reluctant to go get tested is for that exact reason that Elaine was talking about, that I don't want to get that letter and I don't want to get that phone call, so therefore I don't want to deal with it?
Absolutely, Barbara. I had an opportunity to work with a health fair in Portsmouth. And when I was manning the table, I was, handing out brochures and asking people if they'd be interested in getting involved in this new initiative. And one of the ladies that stopped by the table, she actually looked at me and said, do you know that I'm 50 and I've never had a mammogram? And I looked at her and I was kind of shocked that she just came out with that. And so I asked her, well, why? Why haven't you had a mammogram? Do you know the age 40, at that point every year you should have one? She just kind of looked at me and said, sweetheart, cancer doesn't run in my family. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness. I said, she needs that knowledge. She needs that information so that she can kind of wake up. I was blown away when she said that.
Fredda, a lot of people didn't feel that way. If no one else in their family has cancer, or if it hasn't touched them intimately, then they think they're okay.
And a large part of the survivors don't have family history. I didn't know about my family history until my own diagnosis, and then we started talking about it, and then it was found, well, your auntie, your grandmother, and your great-grandmother all had ovarian cancer. And I said, no, I did not know, because we talk about everything else, and what we're going to do at the family reunion. But that's an important part of this initiative also, is to get the families talking. Let's find out what the medical history is, because that plays a part when you're talking with your doctor, and you can go in and make a very sound decision, and you all can talk about what is the next step, or is it time for me to get maybe a baseline mammogram with a strong history. But as the African American community, cancer has been something that we have not wanted to talk about, because we still have cancer equals death, or the big C. And I tell people, do not call it the big C unless it's at the beginning of a sentence. Do not capitalize that word. Take the power out of cancer and give it back to the people.
So, and a lot of times, particularly in African American families, we don't want to talk about those things. People just, shy away from that. And that is pretty dangerous, isn't it, Elaine?
It's very dangerous. In my case, I'm the only one, I'm the gene carrier, because no one in my family has ever had cancer other than me. I'm the gene carrier. How it got from generation to generation to me, I don't know, but I'm the one that started it all.
Started the whole thing. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Give us a call. I particularly would love to hear from women out there who have not gotten a mammogram. If you're over the age of 40 and you are hesitant, call us and tell us why, and maybe we can help to change your mind. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Leon, you've had kind of a double whammy. Your mother had breast cancer, and now your wife.
Yes. And it's odd. It's strange that Portsmouth has started this initiative, because my mother, who lived in Portsmouth, died from breast cancer. As a young person, I didn't quite understand what it was. All I knew is that my mother went from a healthy person to an ill person in a very short period of time. And so I kind of put it all inside and just kind of went with the flow. And then my wife changed doctors. She decided to get at my urgence, she decided to get a new primary care person. And as a result of her getting a new primary care person, one of the reasons was to do all the tests that she needed to have done. And so that's when we found out. So my wife was a little hesitant because she knew my history. She knew that my mother was a breast cancer patient. And
so she was hesitant about telling you?
About telling me. And I really wasn't surprised, because she knew my background. And so she was a little hesitant at first. But then when it was time to go and talk about it, she encouraged me to come along with her. And that's when I realized that I had another fight on my hand, and this one I'm going to take a part in. I was going to take a very, very assertive role in this process for her to get well. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's out of fear that women don't do that. They don't go to the doctor to ask the right questions. So I wanted to make sure that I sat with her and asked all the right questions that she was somehow afraid to ask. And so that's when we start the process. And now it's such a wonderful fight for me, because now I have time to say to my sisters, who I encourage all the time to get mammograms and go and have the doctor check them out and find out what's going on with them. And so it's hard. I mean, it's not hard for me to encourage anybody, for that matter. Mm-hmm. And especially at my church, we have such a wonderful resource at church. We have a group of women that call and do all kinds of things for my wife and encourage her. And as a result, my wife is getting better. She's not there yet, but she's getting better. And the support that we get from my church is most important to her and for her. So I enjoy the fight. I'm looking forward to the Portsmouth initiative. I'm looking forward to being a part of it, because I am from Portsmouth. And not just Portsmouth, but all over Tidewater. Women need to go. Women need to go and ask those hard questions and bring their spouses or bring somebody with them, so they don't feel like they're alone in this fight. Mm-hmm. Because I never want my wife to feel that she's alone in this fight, because that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to be with her and help her through this. And we're going to get better.
That's fantastic. And I love how you say we.
Yes.
You know, you keep it as a unit.
Yes.
You're not alone when you're in this fight. Carol, dispel the myth that it hurts. Can you dispel that myth?
Well, I don't know if I can dispel the myth, because it actually hurts a little.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have a unique little trick that I started. I had my first baseline when I was 37 years old, and I didn't have a family history of breast cancer. But my doctor said, hey, your insurance will pay for it. Why don't you get a baseline early? I said, sure, why not? So I got
early,
one.
Meaning before the age of 40?
Before the age of 40, so I got one at 37. And I heard stories that it was going to be a little painful, so that made me a little nervous. But I had committed, made the appointment, and I decided to just kind of make buddies with my technician. So when I went in, I brought a little gift with me. I brought a little candle, and gave her the gift. And she was like, oh, you're not supposed to do this, but I'll take it anyway. And she was extra gingerly with me. So when I was up at the plate to have my exam, she was really awesome. And it wasn't really as bad as I had envisioned in my mind, that it was just going to be so awful. But it really wasn't. Mm-hmm. And it was relatively quick as well. So it worked out pretty well for me.
Fredda, what questions should a woman ask after they've gotten the mammogram, or even before they get the mammogram? What is it that they need to know as they're about to go into that process?
Well, one of the important questions that a lot of people don't know is to ask what the density is of their breast. Are my breasts dense? Because that makes a difference. Most of the mammographies in this area are digital mammographies, but if your breasts are more denser than the average breast, you may need to follow up with an ultrasound. Mm-hmm. So ask the technician that's reading the exam, or when you're in the appointment with your doctor. Mm-hmm. And those are the type of questions, and we have literature with the American Cancer Society on the questions that you should ask your doctor when you go in there. Mm-hmm. And that is definitely one of them. Studies right now that are doing right now, research is the density, because we're finding that dense breasts are harder to detect on a mammogram, mm-hmm. and the treatment very well may need to change.
Now, I guess a couple years ago, I believe this happened, the U.S. Preventative Task Force came out with their study saying, well, maybe you don't need it at 40, maybe you can wait until 50. The American Cancer Society stood pretty firm.
Along with all of the other breast cancer organizations, within 24 hours, a lot of the other breast cancer organizations had queued up and said, no, we need to keep it at 40. We understand your recommendations, but the mobilization of the organizations that came after that came out, and they said, no, we need to save lives. Early detection is going to save lives. If you move the mammogram age to the right, you have younger women who are being diagnosed, and now it's going to be later stages. So, yes, I was very proud of the breast cancer organizations that came together, that verbally came out and did not, want that.
Mm-hmm. We have a question. Someone wants to know, when you say is the breast dense, are you talking about the thickness of the breast itself? Are you talking about skin color? What exactly do you mean by that?
It's the thickness of the tissue that's inside. And just because you're small-breasted does not mean that your breasts are not dense. Mm-hmm. And just because you're large-breasted doesn't mean that your breasts are dense. It's something that actually is measured off of the mammogram. So the technicians and the doctors will be able to tell you if your breasts are dense or not. But that's not something that you could eyeball per se.
You can't eyeball it yourself. Okay. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Alona joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Alona.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing fine. How are you?
Great. Well, happy birthday, Fredda. Fredda has been a long time a good partner in the fight against breast cancer. I'm with Susan G. Komen, and she's oftentimes been out there fighting the fight in the same ditches we're in.
Thank you, Ilona. It's good to hear you.
Yeah. I just wanted to call in and let the community know about some of the resources that are available specific to the Tidewater region. Komen Tidewater every 2 years undergoes a very extensive survey report that we do called the Community Profile, and we publish it. The 2011 one came out in March. It specifically lets the community know who the most at-risk populations are, what's going on in that community, not just in terms of breast cancer, but in the whole picture. What do our state laws look like? What is the definition of our community? What is the demographic makeup? What's our socioeconomics? And then Komen, as an organization, strategically aligns to make the most impact into those most vulnerable communities.
Okay, Alona, can you give us a website then that our listeners could go to find out more information?
Absolutely, because I think as you all are talking about Portsmouth and the Western Tidewater regions, we have some very specific numbers of what's going on and why it's going on. Our website is www.komentidewater.org.
Okay.
Also, I wanted to let everybody know, particularly from the African American experience, because we're not meeting any state or national averages for good breast health here in Tidewater, we are in a crisis, and we need to get people not only aware of what's going on in the community, not only thinking about mammography, but also getting them taking action and making impact within the community. Specifically, we have an African-American program called the Circle of Promise, and it empowers the community to self-drive change. So we train the trainers, we train the churches, we work very closely with health ministries, school groups, professional groups, government on the state and local level to get people the tools they need to understand and make change within their community.
Okay, Alona, we really appreciate you calling and sharing that with us. And we know that Komen is also an extremely active group in this fight. So hopefully that our listeners will go to the website and find out more. Thanks so much for your call. We appreciate that. Why is it that African Americans seem to have such trouble in terms of getting mammograms? What are the socioeconomic issues surrounding getting the testing? Carol?
Some of the things that I've heard out in the community in Portsmouth is lack of insurance or maybe underinsured. Of course, with the recession that's going on right now, there's a lot of people that are unemployed. So, there's a lot of challenges as far as the financial piece of it. Mm-hmm. So it's a real problem.
But are there other cultural reasons too, Freedom?
Well, with the myths that are out there, I don't want to be told I have cancer or I won't be able to afford it. It hurts. Yes, and childbirth hurts, but we continue to have babies. We continue to do that. I want to say that one of the resources that we have is if anybody was to call in the 800 number 1-800-ACS-2345, they would be able to find the places that offer free or low-cost mammograms. Mm-hmm. So and
there are free mammograms out there.
Yes, there are, with a lot of resources. Every Woman's Life. We have an upcoming resource resource on 17 October that offers free mammograms in the area. But our cancer information specialist will be able to talk to the caller, find out where they live, and be able to give that very informative resources.
Okay, and give that number one more time.
1-800-ACS-2345, and also www.cancer.org. And we have specialists 24 hours, 7 days a week. And we also have a live chat that they're able to use their computer and ask that question, where can I find this? But the myth of the pain, we
it's
just,
a big one that
it
just
is.
to
And we just
overcome.
have to get over that. We have to be able to get over that, because right now and here, that is the best form of detecting.
Okay.
Until we find something else.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Fredda Bryan, Community Health Advisor and Associate Director for the American Cancer Society and a breast cancer survivor. Elaine Gishard, who is also a breast cancer survivor. Carol VanCamp, Community Health Advisor Manager, also with the American Cancer Society. And Leon Thomas, a dedicated husband whose wife is in the fight. He and his wife are in the fight against breast cancer. And we are talking about the Portsmouth Partnership to Beat Breast Cancer, but even more generally, the issue of getting people to stop being afraid and to get tested early. Why is it so important, Elaine, to get tested early?
It's so important to get tested early because if you wait and put it off, then your cancer could be worse than what it is if you catch it in the beginning stages. I mean, if you go and have your mammograms done every year like you're supposed to, that way, you know, when they see that there's a problem, it won't be a major problem. But if you don't have your mammograms, then you don't know what's going on in your body.
Mm-hmm. Amy joins us from Williamsburg. Hi, Amy. You're on the air.
Yes. Hi. How are you?
Okay.
I don't know if you all have heard, but they're actually coming out with a hair test to test for breast cancer instead of mammograms. And I think there should be a bigger initiative to try and get this test done over mammogram.
Why have you had a mammogram?
No.
And why are you hesitant about getting one? Are you over 40, if I may ask? Okay,
yes.
You are.
Pain, basically. I don't want the pain. And no one so far has been able to say that it is not painful. And just the way I know that my breasts are, and I know it will be extremely painful. So I'd much rather have a hair test, and I think it would be better if we look into, other technologies where we could actually, get women tested instead of men who just get to sit and turn their head and cough. We have to go through a very painful process to find out whether or not we have cancer. And I just think it would be better if we actually try and get, other tests out there so that we can find out that we have cancer and not be so painful.
Okay, let's see.
And lower cost, potentially, too. Lower cost.
Okay, let's get a response from our panel here. Thanks so much for calling, Amy. Carol, I see you shaking your head.
I think it's imperative that we have the mammograms because, like I said, initially I was a little hesitant about it because I was, like the caller, I was a little nervous about the pain. But truthfully, the pain isn't that bad. I mean, it's totally doable. I would personally rather have the mammogram, the machine actually on the breast itself to examine it thoroughly versus testing a piece of my hair. Mm-hmm. I just think that's more effective that way. And it's really not that bad.
Well,
there's pain in everything we do. There's pain in some point, at some level. So
I know, as the host of the show, I'm just supposed to ask the question. But I have to say here, guys, I don't have the pain.
You don't have the pain.
I don't have that kind of pain either.
I mean, so I think I really think it's different for each woman.
Everybody is different. Everybody is different, and a lot has to do too. And we have some wonderful technicians out there, like Carol had mentioned, that they put you a little bit more at ease. And there are actually a lot of research going on now on, making the mammogram more effective.
Absolutely.
And the money that's raised through American Cancer Society, millions and millions of dollars are put towards research. And we have a lot of young minds out there that are finding a little bit more effective ways.
Absolutely.
And of course, that takes years to come up with, but again, right now, what is the best, means of that? And also, we haven't really touched on the breast awareness. You have to be aware of your breast, know the changes, whether it's a self-breast exam or when you go to the doctor, they perform the clinical exam. For me, when I was 36 years old, I wasn't getting the mammogram, and I had learned how to do a self-breast exam at the age of 21. The Navy made me, we were on Navy, they made me learn how to do that, and I was able to know the difference. It wasn't a shape difference. It wasn't dimpling. It was that small lump that was there that felt like the size of a pea or the tip of your nose. And I was able to go to the doctor and say, this was not here last month. This was not here. And
because I was going to say, I mean, we're spending a lot of time talking about having a mammogram, but it really does start at the baseline with your own self-exam.
Yes,
and knowing your body.
Self-awareness and knowing and looking at yourself and seeing, are there any dimpling? Is there any discharge from my nipple? Is there discoloration? The shape of it? Yes, so that you can go and again have that educated conversation with your provider or at the clinic and say something just isn't right, because if we know our bodies, we know them. You have to become aware of everything that's going on because you have to be your own advocate.
But Elaine, I would say, younger women tend to, or the younger generations now, tend to be much more self-aware and not as shy, if you will, about the body and about changes and so forth. But for older women, they were brought up in a time where you didn't talk about those kinds of things, or you didn't touch yourself in that type of way in order to know your own body. Do you think that particularly in the African American community, is that another cultural hindrance to getting tested and finding out early?
I think so. I think a lot of women back in the older days, they weren't taught to do self-breast exams. And I think that's a lot of reasons why now they're not comfortable about doing it. And the younger generation, they talk more of that when you're in high school, telling you about self-breast exams. And when you go to the doctor for the first time, seeing your gynecologist, then, he talks to you about having, doing self-breast exams. And so that I think a lot of older women, because of how they were raised years ago, they didn't have all this information. So, they didn't know to do this. And now that, it's out there, and for the younger generation, more younger kids, younger women, they know to, do the self-exam. Me, I did the self-exam years ago when I was in my 20s because I had fibristic breasts. And so I've always had a problem, finding little lumps, but it wasn't that it was cancer. It was just like little fibros, And so I've always been in the breast clinic. At the age of 29, I was at the breast clinic. I always had to go to a breast clinic because of that, because I have fibristic breasts. And so it doesn't always mean that you have cancer. You're going to find little lumps, and it doesn't always mean that the little lump is cancer. But you want to make sure that you have everything checked out, because sometimes it could result into cancer, and like mine did after the age of 40.
So they really need to learn and find out the information ahead of time. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Mickey joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Mickey. You're on the air.
Oh, thank you. Excuse me. I'm a mission manager for Komen, for Breast Cancer Organization. I just wanted to speak to a couple of points. One, that knowing your own body is certainly one of the things one of the actions that we ask people to do. And we ask women to start at age 20. So that exactly what the lady was speaking about a minute ago. By the time she's 40, she is not afraid to look at herself and know what she looks like. And should she get breast cancer prior to that, she's been watching her own body, because the standard of care right now is that women get a clinical breast exam every 3 years up to the age of 30 to up to the age of 40. So they don't want to wait 3 years before looking at themselves.
Okay.
So it's vital that women start at age 20 to know themselves and feel comfortable with themselves so that they can identify those things. The other thing I wanted to just was a statement. In working with the African American community in the Tidewater area, I haven't found the fear of the pain of mammography. I don't see that as such a deterrent of getting screened as people's basic fear of breast cancer, and their belief still that nothing can be done about it. If you're diagnosed, you're doomed.
Okay. All right.
And I think we need to even go back more and help people realize that it's not a death sentence.
Okay. Thank you so much for the call, Mickey. We appreciate it. The whole idea, Fredda, and you spoke to this a little bit earlier, that it is not a death sentence.
It is not. I'm thriving. I consider myself a thriver. And a huge part of that was when I was diagnosed, I did not know anyone who looked like me, with breast cancer. I didn't know anybody who had survived breast cancer. And I called the 800 number at American Cancer Society, and one of the programs that we offer is called Reach to Recovery. And I had a mentor, and I had a woman come to my house, and she had went through chemo. She had survived cancer. And at the end of our conversation, she left my kitchen, and I felt like this light at the end of the tunnel is not a train, that I can survive chemo. I can survive radiation, but that's one of the programs that we have in place that's free to our patients, Reach to Recovery. And I also talked to our dietitian on call. And American Cancer Society played a vital role in my healing. And to be able to give back to the community has just been such a big, important part. And even as I live with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer right now, I'm thriving. I'm thriving. And that's the message that I think will help with the fear of cancer equals death. It does not.
Explain that. You say you're living now with metastatic stage 4.
Well, after I was diagnosed, I was in remission for 5 years and on the drug called tamoxifen, and I had the recurrence, and that's always a fear for breast cancer survivors. Is it going to come back? And it did, and it came back. And metastatic breast cancer means that it's in locations outside of the original site. So the cancer came back in my hips, my bones, my lungs, and we're managing it. We're able to manage the disease. Something works for a while. We try something else. I'm actually on a drug right now that's used for prostate cancer because we're trying that. 2 months ago, the cancer had progressed. I had 10 treatments of head and neck radiation treatment, and we're in the managing stages. And I live every day being grateful for that day and hoping that I'm living God's purpose as I meet different women who are newly diagnosed, and to be able to say, you're not going to die from this disease right now. And cancer does not equal death. And American Cancer Society has just played a very vital role in that with the services that we offer.
Leon, that you can speak also because your wife's cancer went into remission too, did it not?
My wife's cancer went into remission, and as a result, we kind of thought we were getting better, and we, sort of kind of started kicking up and having a good look at it. And then my wife did a re-exam as a result, and where her scar tissue was, she thought to say, well, look at this scar tissue. And I'm like, honey, okay, you're telling me, but let's tell the doctor about this. Let's let them know what this is. And so when they went back, as a result of the invasive ductal carcinoma, which was the first type of cancer she had, they realized that now she's the triple negative cancer. So my wife had 2 cancers going on in each breast at the same time. So it wasn't a fear for us in terms of what we're going to do. We're going to get on this right now. We're going to do whatever they say we need to do. We can get about fear.
So the knowledge was power for you.
Yes, it was for both of us, as a matter of fact, because once we realized that we still had a different fight now, right? They even changed the medications to the point where she's on a different form of medication now. The infusions that she was on were beginning to create different pain levels that she'd never had before. And I was very concerned because when I look into her eyes and I see that she's weak and she's under duress from the chemo treatments, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, we got to do something here. And so my wife likes to ask me about, well, what do you think? And I'm like, I think we need to go to the doctor and tell him. And so as a result of talking again with them, we realized that, okay, we got to fight a little harder now. And so as I listen to these women talk about other women in the community, I can only base my experiences on what I've seen and what I've had to deal with. And to see a healthy person and to look into somebody's eyes who is not so healthy anymore, then you become very concerned and very, very, very motivated to help them. And so my concern was, and still is that you have to go and have these exams. You have to do these breast exams. You have to. There's no way around it. I don't mind her saying to me, honey, what do you think? And I'm thinking, you know what? I don't know, but it looks like we haven't told the doctor yet because you were fearful of telling him, because she's thinking it's scar tissue. And I'm like agreeing with her, like, okay, maybe it is scar tissue, but let's find out.
Let's find out. Let's ask the doctor.
Let's ask them.
Let me ask you this, Leon, from a male perspective, help our male listeners out there to understand what it takes in order for them to be as supportive as possible, because a lot of women think if I lose my breast, I'm not a woman. And so from the male perspective, how do you help your spouse get through that?
Well, my spouse helps me because my wife said that her breasts were attached to her. She wasn't attached to them. Makes a lot of sense. After I thought about it, at first I was like, And then we got to the point that it became, well, now, honey, I can get some double Ds. I'm like, double Ds? I love it. Double Ds? You know what I'm saying? Double Ds, I don't think that's a little bit too much. So, it wasn't really hard, but that's how we have, that's where we are with it. We can all kind of take a part in
that's
it.
That's funny.
Go ahead.
That's funny because when I first got diagnosed with breast cancer, I used to be big. I had the double Ds. And it was so funny. I went to my plastic surgeon, and it was my birthday week. And I told him, I said, I had the best birthday. And he said, why? And I said, because this was the first time I ever got to wear a shirt and I didn't have to wear a bra. So I'm loving it.
Bra.
I'm loving it.
No bra.
I always used to be big busted. So now, it's like
freedom.
So there was a freedom for you.
Yes. Yes.
Let them go. Let them
So I love it. The girls love it too.
Eleanor joins us from Williamsburg. Hi, Eleanor. You're on the air.
Yes, I wanted to call because I was really disturbed by the woman who said she had not had a mammogram because of the pain. Mm-hmm. I'm 78 years old, and I have been having mammograms, I think, as long as they existed. And it's just become routine, and she doesn't know what pain is. At the beginning of my mammography, whether it was 35 or 50 years ago, I don't remember, it was extremely painful. But now it's just slight discomfort. I mean, they've improved the process so that you're just uncomfortable for the mammogram. You're not in pain. And when it's over, and you go home and you have no residual pain at all. And so, I don't accept that as an excuse.
All right.
And it's just, I have had friends who've had breast cancer and have survived it. And I've had friends who've had breast cancer and survived because they had mammograms, because they did self-exams. And it's not easy for those of us in my age range to do self-exams because, as someone on your program said, it wasn't part of our background.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, a young teen in the 50s, I mean, it was just the opposite. You never touched anything on your body.
Mm-hmm. Eleanor, we thank you so much for sharing that with us, and I think they may sign you up with to become
we need you,
a community volunteer. Absolutely,
we need yes.
Carol. And speaking of community volunteers, because that is one of the things that you're going to be looking for, is it not?
Yes. Fortunately, I've been able to recruit at least about 40, 50 volunteers so far. There's always room for more people who want to get involved. It's going to take a group effort. The entire community is going to have to be a part of this initiative for the success of it, and it's going to be successful. We're all excited about it. We're looking forward to Portsmouth partnershiping and beating breast cancer 100%. So
Absolutely.
We're excited.
I'm going to try to get one more call in very quickly. Diane joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Diane. Hello, Diane. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, you're on the air.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Uh-huh.
Being from Portsmouth and having a mother who had double mastectomy some 20 years ago, I am very interested in all that's going on. I work closely with Fredda Bryan. Happy birthday, Fredda.
Thank you, Diane.
But she is one who has, like she said, thrived. But I am told that over in Hampton there is proton therapy, and there's a Dr. Keppel there, a scientist, who has now manufactured, or she's, I think there's a new device coming out for those women who are having the problem with this pain. I think she's been cited already for this new device for mammograms. But when someone said to me, I was at a church in Portsmouth, and had an exhibit table for the American Cancer Society. Someone said to me she had never had breast cancer. She had never had a mammogram as well, and she looked like she could have been my age. And I'm saying, oh my goodness. She said, I heard it hurts, but I did say to her, what do you think would hurt worse than a mammogram? And that's breast cancer.
Absolutely.
So we are working tirelessly. to get this word out. And I am just proud to be the director of Daughter Connection of Hampton Roads, we connect with all of the awareness groups. And that's what's needed.
Okay. Thank you, Diane, so much for that phone call. We appreciate that. Frida, I'll let you respond. We've got about 3 minutes left.
Yes. Thank you, Diane. And one of the other aspects of, why is it that African-American women have a higher mortality rate is the accessibility also to mammograms. I mean, think of the economy that we're in right now. A lot of women are trying to take care of families. They may have 2 jobs, so they can't get off work to go to their appointment at 4 o'clock. We have medical systems in this area that offer Saturday hours, after hours. So I encourage you to talk to your provider, call those mammography sites and ask them, do you offer low or free cost mammograms? Do you offer after hours? What about Saturdays? It might just be a Saturday that they can go to. So we encourage that because it isn't always the pain. And I understand what the callers is, but it may be the accessibility. And we're urging with this new program and partnership that we have. And let me back up and say thank you so much to the Walmart Foundation because they thought of this vision and they thought of us enough to say, yes, we are going to give back to the community that gives to them. But we're hoping that the medical systems will come on board and maybe open on Saturdays. We already do have one in the area that is open, but call them and find out. We're not going to know until you ask. And even with this initiative, we may find out that is the problem that we're having in Portsmouth. So we actually might drive policy, or we may drive, aspects of change. And that's what this initiative is, to change. And Mayor Wright had said Portsmouth is number 1 in a lot of things, but this right here, we're not going to have it anymore. And that's what we're going to change.
Absolutely.
We are going to change that.
And there is a big kickoff on Monday, October 3rd at noon at Roger Brown's restaurant, where there'll be a press conference to talk about Portsmouth's partnership to beat breast cancer. People give me the 800 number one more time that people can call if they want information to get treatment or to get a mammogram or to just find out what they need to know.
That number is 1-800-ACS-2345.
Okay, and with that, thank you to Fredda Bryan, the Community Health Advisor and Associate Director for the American Cancer Society and a breast cancer survivor, Elaine Gishard, who is also a breast cancer survivor, Carol VanCamp, Community Health Advisor Manager with ACS, and Leon Thomas, a dedicated husband whose wife and he are dealing with breast cancer. Thank you all so much. Also, there's a website that you can go to, PortsmouthBeatBreastCancer.org, and find out more information. And we'll be right back.
The world against all odds. Keep the dream alive, don't let it die. If something deep inside keeps inspiring you to try, don't stop and never give up. Don't ever give up on you. Don't give up.
Appropriate words for the discussion we just had. Don't give up. Well, welcome back to the show. Now, when you think of African-American musicians, usually jazz, R&B, rap immediately comes to mind. The truth is, African-Americans perform all genre of music, including opera. Case in point, next week, the Virginia Opera presents Aida at Norfolk's Harrison Opera House. Headlining this compelling tale of love, war, and sacrifice are some very talented performers of color. Our Lisa Godley goes behind the scenes and talks to 2 of the artists who help bring the performance to life.
Mary Elizabeth Williams has been singing opera for the past 5 years. She says she was built to sing opera.
I always liked singing. I started singing in the church. I started singing classical church music. Opera is something that, despite all the problems that we're having with arts in general in this country, at least there are opera companies, there are things that I can do, it's a construct that is easier for me to plug myself into. I enjoy singing in other languages, so that was always a pull for me for opera music.
This time, Williams is singing in Italian. as she takes on the role of the Ethiopian princess, Aida.
There's this running debate about what Aida is about. Is it a love story? Is it a love triangle? Or is it a political drama about two countries that are at war? And I think really when Aida is the most compelling is when it's both things at the same time. When it's a love story, a love triangle that's caught in a time period of extreme stress for everyone.
Veteran opera singer Fikile Mvinjulwa plays Aida's father, the king of Ethiopia.
You know, kings those days, they loved their countries. It was the country first and follows the family. He turns against the daughter and said to the daughter, please speak to your lover, Radames, so we can reveal which route the army is going to take so we can attack. Please, for the sake of the country, get what is in there, the information that we need, so that when they go to attack somewhere again, we can wait for them in the hills and voila!
Born in Cape Town, South Africa, Fikile Mvinjulwa has been singing opera for more than a decade. And like Williams, he speaks several different languages. He performs all over the world, singing at the Met at least once a year. Both performers have advice for anyone interested in doing what they seem to do so effortlessly.
If you want to become an opera singer, you must be very dedicated, very disciplined. Time is very important. Time to have your music here in your head. Time to come to rehearsals. Time to come to performances 1 hour or 2 hours before to do makeup and all that. So you need to be disciplined.
I think once you take off the veneer of the stereotype of the opera singer, there are a whole lot of different kinds of people. And there are a whole lot of black people that do wonderful things in the world of opera.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And you can see Aida October 1, 5, 7, and 9 at the Harrison Opera House in Norfolk. Before we leave you today, I want to bring a special project to your attention. Here's your opportunity to give back to the community by becoming a tutor. The Athletes Begins with A program is seeking tutors to work with boys and girls ages 5 through 14. The program targets athletes involved in youth league sports with emphasis given to groups based in Park Place, Norfolk. The goal is to instill a strong sense of academic responsibility in young aspiring athletes in addition to cultivating their interests in sports. The requirements, a love of kids and a 2-hour-a-week commitment to tutor. Tutoring happens on Wednesdays from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Park Place Rec Center, which is located in the James Monroe Elementary Gymnasium. Call 757-802-3781 to get your application and find out more. Visit anotherviewradio.org for more information, and while you're there, check out what else is happening in Hampton Roads. Next week on Another View, Women, War, and Peace. What if you looked at war and peace as though women mattered? We'll talk about it next Friday at noon on Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a wonderful weekend.